You know, if I can be completely honest with you, I just feel like being a little petty because if you haven't heard the news already, last Saturday, Symone Sanders' new show debuted on MSNBC and it flopped. But seriously, when MSNBC brought her on, what they were looking to do is get a new, fresh young face to have on their network that hits all the quota marks concerning appeasing the current social climate by having a woman of so-called color hosting their brand new show. And in this particular case, they brought on a black woman who had just come off of being the senior advisor and chief spokesperson to the first so-called black female vice president. And they did that in the hopes of possibly drawing in a somewhat sizable young black audience. But it didn't work. And it flopped for the same reason that the black news channel flopped, because it's inauthentic. Symone Sanders went from being a fake progressive who was carrying water for Bernie Sanders to carrying water for a man who bragged about all the crime bills that he authored that intentionally, disproportionately locked up black men.
I hope this crime bill, when it passes, the Biden-Hatch crime bill, as it becomes law, God willing, I hope that we will have ended once and for all this notion that is a hangover from the 60s, that somehow Democrats are weak on crime and Democratic presidents are weak on crime and Republicans are tough on crime. The truth is, every major crime bill since 1976 that's come out of this Congress, every minor crime bill has had the name of the Democratic senator from the state of Delaware, Joe Biden, on that bill.
Now, back in 2020, when the good brother Jamion J.B. Fowler caught up to Symone Sanders and asked her what was Biden's plan to close the racial wealth gap for the descendants of American slavery who built this country and never received reparations for it, Symone walked this man all the way around the block just to give him a rising tides, lift all boats answer.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. This is good.
Black Americans are 14% of the population in America, yet we own around 2.6% of the wealth in this nation. White Americans obviously own 90% of the wealth in this nation. Specifically here in South Carolina, medium household wealth amongst African Americans, particularly American descendants of slavery, is about $14,000, whereas white South Carolinians is about $133,000. Huge gap, right? I don't know that you can bridge that gap with broad and ambiguous programs for minorities or people of color or folks in the inner city. So what is Mr. Biden's plan to close that racial wealth gap?
Well, one, I will say that a lot of the issues that persist in the communities across the country, whether they're black communities, white communities, Latino communities, are institutional issues that are baked in. And when you talk about the gap, which I would like to actually call it a chasm between black Americans and white Americans when it comes to wealth, it's a chasm. But it's not, it is like, the economy doesn't just happen in a silo, for example. So there are educational things that have to do with that. There's infrastructure issues. There is, institutional racism. Slavery kind of set folks back, okay? Like, we want to be frank. And so I would say, one, people often ask me, what is Joe Biden's plan for Black America? And as the Vice President has said, Black America's agenda is America's agenda. You can't have a health care plan that does not speak specifically to the plight of Black Americans. If it doesn't speak to the plight of people in America. So I guess the way I would answer your question is, if you look at each one of the plans we put out, whether it's our HBCU policy for minority serving institutions, HBCU policy for minority serving institutions, or our educational policy at whole that goes from 0 to 12, that accounts for tripling funding to Title I schools. Part of each one of our policies, I think, speaks to the broader goal and mission of closing that wealth gap. But when we talk about rebuilding America and rebuilding the middle class, we're talking about rewarding work again and not just wealth. Right now, rich people and the wealthiest people in this country are the ones getting the breaks. I mean, just look at the tax plan that the Republicans passed about 2 years ago, okay? And so they told everybody that we was going to pass this tax plan and the corporations would get the kickback, and then that money would trickle down. It would trickle down to the community.
Now, I know that was hard to listen to, and I do apologize, but you needed to get the full context of all of the BS that was coming out of her mouth in defense of Joe Biden. Now, given her past actions and flip-flopping, do you really think black folks want to sit down at home on a Saturday at 4 p.m. to watch Symone Sanders on TV? I don't think so. And it's not just black folks who didn't want to watch Symone Sanders. Nobody else did either. Symone Sanders' popularity is about as bad as the approval rating of her former boss, the ex-Biden administration official who was most recently a top spokesperson for Vice President Kamala Harris, tanked in her debut this past weekend on MSNBC, according to the newly released Nielsen ratings. Sanders drew just 361,000 total viewers for her 4 p.m. show titled Symone on Saturday. She also managed to attract just 29,000 viewers in the advertiser-coveted 25 to 54 demographic. Okay, so out of 361,000 total views, 332,000 of those viewers were senior citizens. Now, the coveted demographic between the ages of 25 and 54, which she only attracted 29,000 viewers of, that demographic is not just important to advertisers, but it's also important to the network as well, because that's the age demographic that they're trying to influence politically. The senior citizens are already set in their ways, but the 25 to 54 demographic is going to be the crowd that makes or breaks elections. And none of that crowd was checking for Symone Sanders last Saturday. The program's viewership fell short of Fox News Channel's Fox News Live, which drew 842,000 total viewers, including 163,000 in the 25 to 54 demographic. So she got dusted off by Fox News Live, and I'm willing to bet you they had more black viewers over there than Symone Sanders had on her show. Why? Because you're fake and everybody knows it. Now, before I head out, I just want to take a quick moment to address the Black Democratic Party apologists that are going to be in my comment section, because I'm sure that this video is going to make you a little upset. Now, for those of you who have been subscribed to this channel for at least a year now, what have you consistently heard me say the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans are? The Republicans, for the most part, will tell it to you just like it is concerning who they are and what they're about. And you can either get with it or you can kick rocks. Me personally, I respect that. And in most cases, 9 times out of 10, I'm kicking rocks, because when it comes to black issues, Republicans can honestly care less. But the Democrats are 10 times more wicked than the Republicans, because the Democrats pretend to be the friends of black America. But the moment you get them into office, they completely forget about you. Now, didn't Biden and Harris say they were going to call Ice Cube after the election to discuss his contract with black America? Well, as far as I know, Ice Cube's phone hasn't rang yet. So riddle me this, Democrat apologists. If the Democratic Party is who they say they are, then why is there a racial wealth gap in cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York? These cities, from top to bottom, are ran by Democrats. You would think that the black community in those cities would be thriving and that the racial wealth gap was a thing of the past. But that clearly isn't the case now, is it? So what's your answer? You can't blame it on the Republicans, because they don't run anything in those cities. So then the question is, why is the black community in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York upside down? I can't wait to read your excuses. And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. Please make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll get a direct text notification whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as a protection plan for myself in case YouTube ever gives this channel the axe. I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And last but not least, for those of you who have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel, the number one way you can show your support is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And for those who have issues with joining Patreon, you could also hit the join button that's next to the subscribe button, and that way you can become an official channel member for as little as $3 a month as well. And lastly, if you have not already, please make sure you join the emailing list. There is no way that I can go independent of YouTube if I cannot take the audience with me. And the link to that will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.